My faith journey began when I was 15 years old. It was the day before I was going to end my life. I had given God an ultimatum. I said, God, you have 7 days to show up. I don't know if you're real. I don't know who you are, but something has got to give. There was just so much heaviness in my life and so much desperation. I needed something to shift. And through a crazy set of circumstances, I ended up being enveloped by the love of God through a youth group event. And it was like life from the dead for me. It was, every day was a new adventure. I was learning something new about God. My first 5 years of faith were somewhat similar to that, where every day I was experiencing a new truth, a new adventure. After 2 years in a youth group, I went to a Bible college. I felt like I had a call to ministry on my life, and there was a simplicity, an effervescence almost to my faith that I enjoyed, and it felt easy for me to believe in God. Yeah, I'll never forget the first seizure that my daughter had. This was, this might be the worst day of my life. I found out at work that morning that my job was going away in 3 months. So I went home, and as I'm walking in the door, our then 14-month-old Cynthia starts having a seizure. We didn't know what was happening. I can tell you now that she was having a seizure, but we didn't know what was happening. What we knew was this, that Barbara was holding Cindy, that she was shaking violently, and her face was starting to turn blue. So Cindy was diagnosed with an epileptic seizure, and we sort of thought that was the end of things. She seemed okay for about 3 months, and then we got a phone call from our nanny. Our nanny told us that Cindy was seizing in her crib, so we instructed her to call 911, and we started the process again. This is when everything changed for us. This was when we realized that Cindy didn't have a seizure. Cindy was an epileptic. And that was a tough thing to sort of manage. But we moved forward as best we could. There were, on top of this diagnosis, we also had some less than helpful guidance or advice from the church we were attending at the time. Yeah, eventually what he said is I know exactly what's causing the seizures. And the problem is this: you have unconfessed sin in your life. You are opening the door for the devil to wreak havoc in your family. He said every time you look in the New Testament, you can see that epilepsy is caused by demonic influence. So your daughter is demonized. She's too young to have this be a result of anything she's done, but it falls on you as the head of the household. Chris, this is your fault. You need to purify your heart, cleanse your heart, and your daughter will be healed. Gosh, the guilt, the weight of shame that I felt when he said that. I mean, that was over a decade ago, and there are still moments where echoes of those statements come into my mind, replay in my head, and I have to make a choice to not allow those to hold sway in my life. But over time, we grew accustomed to kind of managing this part of our life. 10 years into this struggle, we had another wrinkle emerge, another faith challenge that's based on health conditions. I started having seizures myself. And my very initial response to that was anger with God. It's frustration, agitation. Pick a synonym. I was ticked. I was pissed off. Here, my wife and I and so many other people we know have been praying for over a decade for Cynthia to be healed. And not only is she not healed, but I get seizures on top of it. This concept of life isn't fair. This isn't justice. This isn't the kind of God that I want to be around. Just ballooned to the top of my thoughts, and I couldn't let go of that. There was a great darkness, a great cloud that sort of overwhelmed me. That I couldn't shake. I didn't realize that how deep the hole I was in had come, and how much it was affecting my family until I heard Elijah say something as I was in the middle of slamming the door as I walked out during one of the arguments that I was having with my wife. I heard him say, "Why is Dad angry all the time now?" And it's like that pierced the darkness, the veil that was covering my eyes, and I was able to see with a fresh light that I had become this ball of rage, lashing out at people when it had nothing to do with them. And I had this unresolved question of, God, where are you? I don't have a plan B. There isn't. Look, I know what life is like outside of Christ. I remember being one day before suicide. And outside of the hope that is found in God, I know I'd end up right back in that place. So it's been 15 years since Cindy had her first seizure, and about 5 years since my seizure started up again. I've had a lot of struggles with my faith. There have been dark times. There have been difficult times. There have been times where I have wondered, God, I know that you are capable of healing in an instant. Why would you not do that? There have been times where I've raged against God. There have been times where I've wondered if he even cares. But I've learned that he does care. And I don't pretend to understand why it is that he doesn't snap his fingers. That was a terrible snap. Why he doesn't snap his fingers and bring healing for my daughter and for myself. There's a part of me that would obviously love to have that. But there is still a sense of knowing that he is here. He is walking the path with me, with my family, as we walk through these difficult, crazy challenges. And this is why I'm still here. This is why you'll see me most Sundays showing up, is because I believe with all my heart that like I said earlier, that God is still for me, and that God is walking this path, this challenging path with me. And there is a hope. It almost feels weird to use that word hope or comfort, but there's hope, there's comfort in knowing that I'm not walking this path alone. There are moments where I can very clearly sense or know that God is doing something, and those touch points for me are powerful and are meaningful and sort of give me the energy to continue to push forward, even when the times are challenging, even when it's difficult. My name is Chris Morris, and this is my story.